Alrighty. Let's see here. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. I'm here. If you're in the chat, say hi. Let me know you can hear me. And so, cool. I have been working on my $1 billion idea app. It's called a Linktree clone. It's going to change everything. Okay, maybe it's not going to change everything, but it's a fun app to work on. So I'm looking to jump into it and see how it goes. So it is being built. If you guys have been watching in my previous live streams, I've been doing this and it's been pretty fun. Hey, what's up, Glee Gleb? I'm going to try something different today. I want to see if I can get chat showing on the screen here. Cool. You can hear me. So I think I can pop out the chat. And then I'm going to look in my OBS. Can I add in another window? I should have done this before the stream started. Let's see here. Display capture. Window capture. And then, yeah, this one. Oh, hey, you guys see some now. Wonder if I can put this right here. I think I can even blend it in a little bit. Hey, look at that. All right. So now you guys can see this chat on the stream. If you want to type anything, go ahead. We can test it out. Awesome. I'll try it out. Hello. Okay, you can saw hello. That's cool. Yeah, so today I thought I'd just jump into some code and we'll get going here. I know there's a lot of stuff happening in the world today. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to jump into the chat. Let me know and I will try to answer. Yeah, good enough. Yeah, I'll try to answer while I'm kind of playing around here. Let's see here. So where is my video capture? Here's the window. Let's see, video capture device. Let's see here, can I get this in here? I'm deleting some stuff to see if I can get this working in here. Video capture device. Hey, there I am. So now we can add this in to the corner so you can see me. And then I guess I could add back in the other window capture that I had. I can add this in. I don't know. Let's see here. Let me add this up here. And I'll try to blend it in. Maybe on this side, put up here. Kind of hard to see, huh? All right. Well, I can now see it if it needs to be there. All right. And if you guys have any other questions, yeah, feel free to jump in the chat and ask away. All right, so where we left off, I have this app here. And in this app, I'm using the Google Authenticator. Let's see here, I'll hide primary sidebar. If we go into our index.tsx file, It's pretty simple. All I'm doing right now, here, I'll log in. I'll log in with an old email I have. I have a very clicky keyboard. And you can see here I have, right now I don't really have too much. I just have these input fields that don't really do anything. And if I do slash, I think it's called links. This is kind of what the look and feel is. So the idea is that anybody could create their own link tree, and this will fill out with all their links, and they can share this with anybody that they want to share with. So that's kind of the idea there. Let me move this down. I kind of don't love this, but I'm going to change this. I'll move it. I'll just leave it right here for now. It's just kind of in the way. Let me hide it for now, but I will add it back in later. Maybe while I'm in the other FaceTime, we'll have the chat in the background. Still playing around with it. Cool. All right. Oh, so I had a question. What auth methods are you using, cookie or bearer? So I'll show you. So this uses JWT tokens, and then you can do bearer authorization. You can use it with API gateway, and then in the API gateway you can set up, so it's basically a bearer token authorization. So if we come inside here, we can look at our application, and we can see if we look into our local storage, all the Cognito information is being saved. So after I logged in, like my user attributes, the identity token, the access token, that's all being saved inside here. And then I'm using the Amplify library, and the Amplify library allows you to kind of does this all for you. But you can grab the JWT tokens and send it to any endpoint you want. But if we're using some AWS services, like I want to show you guys with this AppSync GraphQL, it does all this in the background, so I don't have to like include the authorization header on every single request to grab like data that's private. So if you look here inside Studio, if I go to the data, yes, you heard that CSRF is dead for now for cookies, like cross-site request forgery stuff. Well, it depends on how the cookies are created, and so you can take a look at here how to prevent CSRF and CSS attacks, cross-site request forgery, and there's a bunch of ways to do that. And you can do prevention tokens and cookies. I won't get into that, but it's needless to say that when you use Amplify's authentication system and it's backed by Cognito's identity provider, that identity management provider, that you don't have to worry about these type of things. So here is an empty data model. Let's see here. Oh, let me take a look here. This is not the right one. So I'm logged into my console here. I go to all apps. I'm going to go to Linktree. I'm going to launch Studio. And this will bring up my Studio app for this. And I was kind of playing around too. So we have data in it already. And I was trying to see how easy it is to save data and to retrieve data. And there's a couple ways we can do this. We can do this with Data Store, or we can do this with AppSync. And Data Store is, if you guys are familiar with Firebase, is sort of very similar to the Firebase type tools where you can save into their database. No, Glee Globe, that's great. You know, keep it moving. Yeah, so with if you look at the Amplify Authenticator, or the Amplify JavaScript library and cookies, so there is ways you can store information inside your application when you're doing authentication, your JWT tokens. And I believe there's ways you can set cookie storage inside when you set up your authenticator. So if I look inside the app TSX file, you can see here I'm doing this AWS Amplify configure, and I'm pulling this information for this AWS exports, but I could also do cookie storage and set that up. And then I could do different types of ways of saving that information. So I can, you can set secure true, so it indicates the cookie transition requires a secure protocol. So there is definitely ways of saving information locally in using Amplify library if you didn't like the way it was doing local storage. It is quite secure though. Definitely the way we handle that. There's different authentication methods incognito that you can kind of look up. The way we definitely handle different ways we handle tokens and how they get passed different providers. So I would highly look into that if you're interested in that, but I won't get too much of that into the stream. So here is our data. So right now we have two models. We have a Linktree, which has and if we can look at this in the schema right now. And so this is like our managed GraphQL service that you can play around with and work with, called AppSync. So I have two tables. One's called Linktree, and the Linktree allows public options to read it, but only the owner can update it. And then also on top of that, this owner field is specific because this gets added to tell, it tells essentially AppSync that this is an authenticated Cognito user that's using this, and they can read and delete. They can't update their field, so they can't like change the owner field to someone else. So this is kind of this is a way you do these with these directives in AppSync. And then we have a link URL, which allows public read, operations read, and allows owner. And to get this all working, I had to do a couple of changes. On my last stream, I started going down this rabbit hole. But the most important thing is I had to add in this auth mode strategy type, and that allows us to have like multiple authentication modes inside your stream, inside your AppSync GraphQL data store. I could do this a couple of different ways. I can use data store by itself, but I also can use AppSync. And if I look inside where is it? Inside here. I was actually been doing mostly data store, which is fine, but I was thinking about going back and forth between data store and using GraphQL. But I think I'm going to stick with data store for now, but I might switch it back. I'm not sure entirely what I want to do. It's just different ways of grabbing data from your backend. So if we look here, we can go to content, and I think we'll see some content in here. Okay, so I already have a bunch of like dummy content in here, link URLs and link trees. And the way it works in my schema is that this link tree has many link URLs and link tree. So it has this one-to-many option. So one link tree can have many different link URLs, and that would have like the URL, the title, position, and the link tree, which is good. Why do you choose AWS services over Supabase? This looks so much more complicated than Supabase. It's actually, once you get to know it, I like Supabase, I like Firebase. It's actually really straightforward to use. You just have to figure out how to use it. And that's why I'm kind of doing these live streams, to show people how straightforward it is to get started with these things. You just have to understand it. I mean, you just can write your whole data model either using data modeling, which is, this is the editor, but you can also get a visual editor. I kind of changed a few things. And you can set up your authentication in literally a couple of clicks. you just change your mechanisms. You click deploy, and then you run an amplify pull command. You see it right here. I can pull down my whole Amplify app right here into my application, and then it provisions everything for me. It creates the CloudFormation scripts. It does everything for me, and I don't have to worry about all that. But I also have the ability to break out of this. If I didn't like it, I can export it all to CDK. I can also do overrides. So I have a lot of flexibility as well. And so it can get you kind of zero that the time it takes from starting a new project and then adding in these features takes a long time, and it definitely speeds up that process once you get to know it. And there's a lot of good documentation we have on this too. But I know those other services are great too. I mean, depends. And one thing I want to be clear too with is that some people have the misconception that Amplify is just good for just quick starter projects, but really Amplify is great from starter projects all the way to full-scale enterprise applications. We have several customers using that. And there's lots of different parts of Amplify too. So you may use this thing is called Studio, which allows me to provision and create my AppSync and GraphQL and data backends, and it has this whole UI design part of it. But you might only use the JavaScript library, or you might only use the hosting. So you can kind of mix and match what you want to do. These are good questions while I'm kind of messing around with this. I'm kind of looking at questions. Yes, this is a Next.js app. I am a huge Vue.js fan. You can do all this in Vue, and maybe I will. The only thing you can't do in Vue is this UI library part. Like this actually creates, if you look, there's a whole UI components folder, and it creates all these TypeScript files for you. And some people thought this was only JSX and not TypeScript. There's a type definition file in here too. But it creates all this for you, so you can add in forms quickly to your application. But you could do this, certainly the authenticator that I'm using is also in Vue. If you go to uidocs.amplify.aws, if I remember correctly. So this whole library works with a bunch of different platforms. And so you can work with Android, Angular, Flutter, React Native, Vue. So on Vue, we don't have the component library, but we do have the authenticator. So this works with both, for sure. Yeah, so Erik was asking, is there a work in progress to have Amplify auth components with React server components now that it's app directory is stable? So yes, you can today. I was just talking to another engineer about this recently. So if you go into if you go into the React here, you can see we have these connected components like Authenticator, and you can do the components here like divider, heading, view. So if you're using the app directory Next.js with server-side components, there's a way you can do client-side. And you have to, if I remember correctly, there's like a tag that you have to put at the top of it to tell Next that it's a client-side app, client-side. So you can certainly use any of our components, especially our connected components. You can mark them in using the app structure in Next.js and mark it as client, and then you can run it fine that way. And that's kind of what I recommend doing. There is an open issue. If you go to github.com, is this it? If you go to, let's see here, Amplify UI. If you go to issues here, and then storage option, yeah, the app router Next.js 13. So if you like use some of the things like with Authenticator in the app router, you get kind of an error working with it. So we are looking at that. But if you look at the Next.js docs, you have server components, but you can mark them as client. Yeah, here's use the client directive. So you can use this with the client directive and everything will work fine. But if you are looking to use it on the auth side, we are still, we're looking into that. Yeah, we're currently looking into how we will be supporting Next.js server components. So we're definitely like looking at that. And there's another issue too on Amplify.js. So just keep that in mind that there is some issues that we're looking at that, yeah, so Lavartan mentioned that too. I had the same issue after hours of debugging with Git server-side components. So he said, though, he was able at least to, if you're using just the JavaScript library and not the UI components, he was adding SSR true. Into the second case, it resolved the problem. The issue was not reproduced in local dev environments. So if you're using the client side and you want to use the Connect components, you'll need to run them as client-side components. If you're using the JavaScript library, from what I can tell, it is working with SSR true. And then we are thinking about other ways that we can handle this type of structure. For a long answer, Eric. So I'll throw this in the chat if anybody wants to follow back up with this. I should do a stream too and just use this client side instead of the server side and add in Authenticator and show you how it works. We definitely have quite a bit of synergy between us and Next.js and server-side components just regularly. You can use the Amplify JavaScript library and access your credentials. You can get server-side props. You can do authentication on the server side and then push it back to the client side. That's all available today. So there's a lot of things you can do with it that I don't think a whole lot of people know about. So yeah, I think if you look at the Amplify docs SSR, so you can do this. You can put this SSR true, and then you can do this with SSR context, like right here, and then basically you get this rec object out, and then you can pull data. So if you're already authenticated, you can use our AppSync, GraphQL all on the server side. So it's pretty handy. So you were talking more about using the SDK. Yes. So I haven't tried using AWS SDK, if that's what you're using, Eric, on this. I'm just talking mostly the Amplify libraries. So there's usually the way I have used the SDK, though, using on Lambdas and server-side components. I haven't had any issues, but yeah, I'm not sure what scenario exactly that you're looking at, though. Cool. Yeah, that's awesome, Eric. Yes. Okay. Where was I? Yeah, a lot of good questions. So what I was playing around with earlier is how can I use this form to create things. So what I guess the next part, what I'm trying to do is, before I get too much into the UI of this app, I want to have a way that so as soon as someone logs in and creates an account for the first time, I want it to create a Linktree and set it to trial. And then I want them to be able to enter the URL or put the username in and then enter the URLs into that. And then if I see that they're not in trial, maybe it brings them to a different screen. So maybe after they enter their first link, they go from trial to starter. And then every time they log in after that, they'll be seeing a different type of screen. That way I can keep track of how far people are in like the pipeline of once they create an app, once they sign in, that I know where they are. So I thought that would be kind of fun to play around with in this stream today, rather than just deep diving into the code. So here is this is one of the generated forms. So here's that links one I was messing around with the other day. Yeah, I had this save link URL. Where is this going? Oh, it's on the submit button. I think this is all still connected and working. I just have a bunch of content here. So this has like a built-in CMS to it, so I can kind of play around with looking at it. So here's every single link tree that I've created, and I can link the URL to it. But I think I'm just delete some of these because I don't think I want any of them right now. Delete them all. This takes a second. Oh yeah, so the $1 billion app idea is kind of a joke, but I'm creating, Linktree, that application that anybody can sign up for, and you can add one URL and you can add it to anywhere, and it gives you this like links, and you can put this anywhere, and you can customize it. So my idea is to create my own links app using Amplify, maybe even use AI to like come up with your with some information here at the top, or maybe like use AI for the logo. You got to put AI somewhere in your $1 billion idea. But it's just kind of a fun project that I'm working on today. But it's really early on. I'm just really on the scaffolding here and getting it all connected to the backend database. Let's see here. Did it delete it? Okay. If I'm covering anything on my screen, let me know. I'll move it. All right, there's no links there. Link URLs. I'm going to delete. Okay, so I have nothing in here. And you can also, what's really cool is you can test your API here, and it has this explore command. So if I want to like list link trees, next token, started at, let's see, items, ID, owner, and play. Like I just deleted them all. So they're showing up here because I believe these link URLs are actually not used. They're deleted. I think there's a delete. Let's see, items. Yeah, you can see if they're deleted or not. So we come down here. Yeah, some of them have owners null. So there's like a lot of bad information in this database, which we could probably get rid of. So if we go back to AWS console, we can look at API here. We can view an app sync. So we can actually kind of take a deeper dive look at the data that we have instead of just using Studio. And let's see here, I got functions. So here's all the functions, queries. Here's data sources. So I can see here's the different tables. So the nice thing is you can drill directly down to DynamoDB. So kind of out of the gate, these are all back to Dynamo. And explore the table items. So you can see all of them here. But I think a lot of this is like bad data that I just manually put in. And see, you see deleted true. So when you delete them, they don't necessarily they're not out of the database. They just get this deleted true on them. So I kind of want to just like delete all of these. Delete items. And then same thing for here. I'm going to delete them all. Okay. So now I have cleared up my data Linktree here app. Okay, so let's say we want someone to log in, and when they log in, or when they create their account for the first time, that we set up something in the database here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a new user and just see if I can populate this new user data source. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. Yeah, so Glee, it would be like a banner. It would be sort of a link that someone can add to any of their social media profiles. They click on it, and then it'll have a link to other links. So that's kind of the idea of it. I believe that Instagram just added in a way to add in like 5 or 6 links too. So, so it's not a new idea, but all right. Let's see here. I probably want to add in a new user model. So I'm just going to try this out. I'm going to get this wrong a few times, but let's see here. Type. Let's see here. We'll call it user, singular. And then I probably want to have a model. And we'll have, and I always forget you don't need this right here. When you're doing, you don't have it. Well, it would be after here. Like this. And then we can add some auth rules. Now, I did this before, so I'm going to look through something else I did. I think I have like a schema that I can copy. So I'm going to find that real quickly on my other screen. So one sec. Yeah, let's go back here. And let's take a look here. Okay. And just one second. Trying to look at this model that I created before. Just be one second. Trying to find it. Uh-oh, screwed up my screen. Oops. Let's do face cam. Yeah, I think I found some code here, but it's not quite the right kind. So I'm still looking for it. It's gonna just take a minute. This is exciting, finding ways of doing this. Let's take a look here. Okay. One sec. Still looking for it. Aha, here it is. I think I found it. I'm just gonna put it inside the chat here. Okay, one sec. Okay, I'm back here. Okay, I think I found what I needed in my chat here, or inside my app here. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to do @model @auth. I want to put some rules. Yep. And then I think this will go like this. And then these rules, I want to just allow owner right now. And then I want ID here. I want a status string, username string, and favorite recipe string. So did I do that right? Let's see. Oh, I'm missing a closing parentheses. Okay, so this says I want something with status, username, and then favorite recipe. Well, not favorite recipe. In this case, it would be, I guess you have status, user, maybe just status right now. I don't know if we need a favorite Linktree or something, but we could always change this. All right, so now I have this. So what this is saying is that this is going to be like a model that we're going to use. It's going to have auth. Only owners can edit it. And I could add this in here. I think I might. Owners can only change or edit. Well, I'll add that in later. So I changed it, so I'm going to push it up and see if it works. See how far I get. Let me know if you guys are seeing any errors. I'm seeing like that maybe I'm not sending enough video to make it smooth. Is it not smooth enough for you guys? Let me know. This is my status is poor. But yeah, let me know if I'm like coming in out. Oops. It says invalid. Open the schema to use expected blank and return blank. So what do I have wrong here? Let's see. I have type user model auth. Maybe I can put this in another screen. Oh, I think I need to do allow owner. That's what I wanted. There we go. Now I'm going to push it. And see if it works. Okay, it's good. Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. So now it's pushing this new model. And so what I think we want to do is, so in Cognito, there is these Lambda triggers. Lambda post sign up confirmation trigger. So what you can do is anytime someone signs up to your service, you can have it go to through your user pool to a post confirmation Lambda. And then from Lambda, you can then access different services. So I wanted to access my DynamoDB database directly. I could go through AppSync, but I'm thinking I'm just gonna go directly to the database and see if that's gonna work. I'm sure I'm gonna get this wrong a few times, and I'm gonna see if that works. So I want to do that. So after it pushes this up and I make sure that it looks correct, then I'm going to add a new post confirmation Lambda trigger. And then we will create a new user every time someone signs up. Well, we're going to try to. That's the point. And I did do a blog article on this. If you go to programwitheric.com, I did it on just sending a welcome email with a post confirmation Lambda trigger. So this kind of goes through it and I use the CLI. You can't use Studio at this point to do that. You can add in like some authentication things inside here, but you can't add in a post confirmation Lambda trigger. You could if you go directly inside the console and go to authentication and view incognito. You could try to add it in here, but it's just easiest doing it through the CLI, which that's not the right place. It would be view incognito here. Yeah, so if you go and view incognito here, it gives you the user pool information, and I think you could try to do it inside here or inside Lambda, but I'm just going to do it through the CLI after I'm verified that this deploys correctly. That's one thing that takes a little bit of time using Amplify and using CLI. Things take a little time to deploy, which is unfortunate, but it does. What if you guys are in the chat, tell me what sort of backend tools you guys are using. Are you using Firebase? Are you using Supabase? What are you using your DB? Are you using MongoDB Atlas? Are you using Clerk for authentication? There's so many different things out there. I'd love to hear it. What you guys use while this is going. So I did grab some other information too while I was looking around. So I've messed around with post confirmation trigger handlers in the past, and I was able to, in a different project, call the DynamoDB app directly. It did take a little bit of time to get that working. One thing that I definitely need to do is you have to get the correct IAM permission. So if you create the post confirmation Lambda trigger, it needs to have permission to talk to DynamoDB. Sometimes that's a little tricky. So we'll probably have to Google that, how to add in like a put item into it. I guess while we're waiting, we can look at the app again and see what else I can do here. So these right now, let's see here. There we go. We'll go to index. I'm just pulling in these pre-made forms that are already created. So this Linktree create form, and then you can override different things on it. So there's this owner field that I get rid of, displays none, and then it just does an alert, I think. Yeah, so I don't have it connected to anything. And this link URL create form does the submit button and does the clear button. But I think, like I have this override here, but I think if I get rid of this override, it will add in, will it add it in? I don't know if it's connected correctly. Oops, I don't want to create a new storage bucket. So I go to content here. I don't have anything in here. It's refreshing. But I've put in Erik123. I think this Linktree create form is already set up. We can also look inside the console. Clear. Let's see here. We'll clear this out. Clear console. And we need to restart our app. Okay. Okay, so it pushed everything. This is the warning here about owner, how I set up the schema right here. You can see here I have it rules allow owner, but it's telling me that only the owner can like change this. So when you're logged into the Cognito user pool, an owner can change this, but an owner can also change who the owner field is. So they can like change it to someone else that they're not supposed to. So you can set up a rule on each individual key. So you can say, hey, the owner can only read and delete this. They can't update this to like another user in the system. I'll add that in later, but that's what this kind of error is telling me here. And it even has like a message about why you should be careful about using this owner directive right here. And this owner says only this person that created it can use it. Oops. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. So let's, while I'm playing around here, let's see here, I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, I love Fast API. I love Django, Nest. Those are all great Postgres for your database. Yep, those are very cool. All right, so I'm going to do Amplify upgrade, because anytime I get the message from Amplify that my CLI is outdated, I always do Amplify upgrade, because you never know what fixes they did. And it's, if you try to use the latest feature and you don't have one thing, here's a tip. If you're using Amplify and you're using the command line utility and things don't work, like there's something weird happening and you're getting weird errors when you're pushing, do two things first. Do an Amplify pull to make sure you have the latest version of whatever changes you did on the server side, and then run Amplify upgrade, or maybe run the Amplify upgrade first, because a lot of times if you don't have the latest version of the Amplify CLI, things just don't work correctly. So I always run Amplify upgrade. It's pretty stable. All right, it's upgraded. So now I'm going to do Amplify. I'm going to update auth. So this is the way I'm going to add in my post confirmation trigger. After I'm using Windows subsystem for Linux 2. Things are a little slow. My computer's thinking right now. Like, I don't know. I hear it. I hear the hard drive working. It's thinking. Okay, so I need to, you have to do walk through all auth configurations. So I don't really need to do the rest of these. So user sign in, sign up, connect with IAM controls. Okay, so I'm going to leave this one. Allow into yes. No. You can kind of hit enter through all these. They'll just default to the last ones you had. No. Off. Enabled. And then verification messages. Don't need to override the pool. Refresh period. Can read and write. I know my head's a little bit in the way. If I get to something that it's missing, I'll move it. You want to specify user attributes? No. Any of this? No. Yes. So this is the one you want. Do you want to configure Lambda triggers? Yes. I want to do a post confirmation trigger. This one. And then I want to create my own module. And so now it created this new, let's try to open in a new folder or a new file here, but it's open this new custom.js. So npm run dev. We can look at this custom.js. So here is my Lambda trigger. So this will only run after a user is signs up for the first time. And so what I want to do, and what it did is it created this new Amplify folder here. And in this Amplify folder now we have a backend function, and we have this new custom.js. So what I'd like to do is I like to use TypeScript. So I'd like to copy this, rename it to custom.ts. Okay. And then I'll need to add in some way to actually use TSC and create a TypeScript file. So we'll create a new file. I'll call it tsconfig.json. And then I have another screen, kind of my tsconfig I use for all these. Where is it? So this says that we're going to use tsconfig, ES 2020, strict, and it's going to look in the source folder, which is great. And then also I want to make sure that every time I push, that it builds the TypeScript file, or builds from TypeScript back to JavaScript. So one thing I do is in my package JSON, you can add in this way. You have to put the name of the folder. So whatever you called it, I called it Linktree post confirmation. So I'll add a script called, let's see here, we'll call it Linktree. We'll have to do Amplify Linktree post confirmation. And then we can have it run a command. So every time you kind of push, it'll run this command. So I want it to run this command. I'm going to copy and paste it from another screen. So what this is saying is it's going to go into the Amplify backend function, and we're going to change the name of this to Linktree. Yeah, that's called Linktree. So it goes to Amplify backend function Linktree post confirmation and runs tsc-p on the tsconfig file and then change directories to it. So let's just run that manually from the command line and see if it works. So I'll open up another Windows Subsystem for Linux, and this will live stream Linktree, and then I'll npm run without the quote here. Okay, did it do it? So we can open back up. Let's see here. This, and then go to our function source. So this should have created this JavaScript file. So I'm going to rename this to old. Just real quickly. And I'll run this command again. And refresh. Okay, so it's working. So I created the JS file. Really didn't do anything because I don't have anything changed, but it looks like it's building correctly. So now what I want to do is I want to add a few inside this function folder. So I'm going to kind of just change directories to this backend function Linktree, and then in the source folder, and this is where you have to put the package JSON and all your configurations, and that helps. Cool. So I see some people using Node.js, SQLize, Postgres, .NET, and Vue. Hello from Nigeria. Hello, hello. So now I want to, since we're going to use this handler, we're going to use AppSync here, and we're going to connect to a DynamoDB. So I want to install a few things in here. So I'm going to install this AWS SDK, AWS Lambda, AWS. I don't know if we're going to use AppSync. I'm going to install it anyways. And then the types. I think this might be already here, but we'll install it. Well, we'll install the types as a development dependency. So I need all these for my handler here. And we want to make sure we have the right types everywhere. I think if we look inside this package JSON, okay, it already has the types for AWS Lambda, but now we have AppSync, Lambda, and SDK, which is the ones I want. Oh, and of course, TypeScript. TypeScript. Okay. And did it do it? Let me refresh it. Yeah, there it is. Okay. And I'm going to close this. Don't save it. Okay. All right. So now I should have everything I want in here. So I'm going to go into my TypeScript file. Yeah, let's play around this. So I've done this in the past, so I'm kind of cheating here to see how this works, but I haven't done this exact scenario, but I think this is how we want to do it. So first, since we're using TypeScript, we don't have to have this type import here, but that's fine. So I'm going to export const. I'm going to export const handler. My code whisperer is now giving me suggestions. And then this handler is going to be post. It's going to confirmation trigger handler. And I'm going to grab that type. I'm going to import it in posts from AWS Lambda. So now I have the right types, which is very handy. I'm going to also import in DynamoDB from AWS SDK, so we'll need that. And then we'll do const ddb equals new DynamoDB. And I think that should give us what we want here. So yeah, cool. Now I have types for everything, which is really handy. So, and then I'll do date. Well, we'll come back to this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to check to see if we're in the, if we have the correct trigger source. So, and then also we want to make sure they have an email is present. And the reason I want to do this is just to make sure that they signed up correctly in the correct way, and this code only runs if they've confirmed their email and they're at the point now of they're completing their sign up. So if, and I'll do event dot, I think it's called request dot user attributes email, user attributes dot email. We're just going to assume if that one is there, and then also if event dot trigger source equals. So it already found some things for me. This is Code Whisperer. I wonder if I should just, let's take a look at this. Interesting. See, it's already kind of figured out. So it says if I have the event request attributes.emails there and the post confirmation signups there, then we are going to add the user to DynamoDB. So this isn't quite right. So we have process env DynamoDB table name. We have the item. So I think, well, we do have a table name, and we could set this up as inside our, as a environmental variable. So I think that's a good idea. We'll do that. But I'm just going to call this user table. It's a little bit easier. And then this item has a list of all the items. So instead of doing this, I'm going to do request dot user attributes dot sub. So that's going to be the ID. And so this is like a built-in, so when you're coming in through Cognito and a post confirmation trigger, you get to access to the user attributes, and sub is one that's a special ID for each user that's incognito. And so I can assign it to this ID here. And then we need a few other things to do this. So we have an ID here. Oh, by the way, we should see now in our Linktree, if we go to data, yeah, we see we have our new model here, which is good. And there's a bunch of columns. So kind of what I want like to do is to see what the columns are. I'm going to just manually add the user in here. I'm going to put them to trial and say Erik ch test submit. So now I have this title, this ID. But if I want to look at this in AppSync and DynamoDB, I'll come back here. I can go to API in my console. I already clicked it. Here's the user table, data sources, and go view. Here's the user table, explore items. All right, so this is all the columns it has in here. It says an ID column, a created at, status, updated at, username, last changed at, version, and type name. So to be able to save information in here, we'll need to kind of manually enter these values in. So we have ID. So we'll need, let's see here, status. So we'll put status. And I really like TypeScript because I would never know what to put here. So for status, we're just going to put it as trial. And then we'll do a username. So event, I think that username, yep, that's right. That's correct, grabbing it from Cognito. And then the owner, this is really important. Since we have in the schema, if we open up the schema again, schema, we have this allow owner. It adds in this invisible field called owner, and this owner has to be like that, equal that sub value. Otherwise, the user won't be able to like access it. If anybody has any questions while I'm doing this, let me know, because I'm playing around with this. Okay, so owner S, I think it's an S, and it would be event.request.userAttributes.sub. So that should link it so this user actually has it. So now I've have the status updated. I think the updated at, I think we have to put updated at and created at. So updated at, I think we're gonna call it updated at, yep, that's right, I think. Yep, and I'll do created at, yep, that looks right. So yeah, updated, created at, we have status, we put username. Now last change at, version, and type name. I think you have to have some of these, otherwise it'll fail. So I'm gonna put in, we don't need email, so we'll do underscore version. Well, yep, we'll do N1. Last changed at, yeah, it looks like it's already knowing what to do here. So last changed at, we got last changed at and version, and I think we need type name as well. Let's do it. Type name. Here it is. And we can call it user. I think it's, yeah, user. All right, so I think I got them all. So I have this item. I have this, I'm putting the attributes, the status, username, owner, update at, create at, version. So these are all the things that are in this table here. And I think I need a closing bracket. And maybe I'm missing something. Oh, I got not enough brackets. So I'm gonna add in another bracket. Okay, cool. So now I have waiting this whole put item here with all the values that we need. We can run toPromise on it. So I think what we probably want to do is put this in a try catch block, because then we can see what's happening here. And then here we'll do catch, and then we'll do error, console log, error, error. Okay, so now we have a try catch blocks. And I think that's it. So this should enter and create a new value in this table and set them to trial every time they log in. Oh, we probably need something to like return. I guess we were just returning the event at the bottom, but maybe we just do context dot done. This is deprecated, but instead of null, we can put this undefined. All right, so we have this whole post confirmation Lambda trigger, and this should work. Okay, I got a question. Is there any integrations can be done with Salesforce? Yeah, you can certainly. I mean, what sort of integrations are you looking for, Ike? Let me know in the chat, and I can maybe answer that. Oh, another thing we need to do here. So if we just push this up, it's going to try to access this database. And first, it's going to find this user table. This environmental variable doesn't exist. We'll have to add that in. But it also will fail because it doesn't have access to it. So what's really cool is if we go back to here, there is a custom policies. And so we can add in policies for this link post confirmation trigger. So these are basically like IAM rules. Now to do that, I always forget how to do that. So we'll have to do IAM rules for DynamoDB put items. I think that's the only thing we're doing. And we can kind of take a look here. Yeah, so this, I think you have to, I don't know if you have to put the effect allow, but we can add it in there. So this would be effect allow. And then we look at the action. So we need a DynamoDB put. Here it is. This is what it's called, put item. I think that's right. And then we can do resources. Now, kind of the lazy way of doing this is just putting a star here, and this will say that it can access any DynamoDB resource. That means you're, oh, one sec. What this is saying is that this Linktree post confirmation Lambda trigger can access any put item on any DynamoDB resource. The other way, kind of the proper way to do this, is we need to actually put the ARN for the resource that we want to access. And if we come back here, I think if we go back to this Linktree staging, here's the table names. But I think it has here the ARNs of this stuff, this Linktree staging. I don't remember where it is though. Data sources? Schema? Monitoring settings. Oh, here it is. So here is the API ARN. I kind of want to try this with just star first and then try the ARN later in case I mess something up. It's kind of really up to, kind of depends on what I want to do here. I guess we'll try it with it, and if it doesn't work, I'll take it out for troubleshooting. But it really, you shouldn't leave it a star here. You should put the ARN. So this will say that you should be able to access DynamoDB put items for this AppSync resource, and our custom TS file will just, all it's doing is this put item, this DDB put item. Okay. I think that's all I want to try here. So here is everything. So I'm going to go back to here and let me just run it first. npm run. Let's see, make sure it creates the file correctly. It's creating it. Okay. So if I come back to here, all right, looks like it created it. You could see here, it's creating it at node, so this works right. So now we should just, if you do amplify status, We have update. We have this new function we're creating. We have an update to the Linktree. So let's just push everything up. Push. All right, and we'll see if it works. All right, I got a question in the chat. Like, I have an app that I manage outside of Salesforce, created using AWS Amplify, let's say for order management. I'm updating something in Amplify app, and I want to write the same thing in Salesforce. Okay. I think I know what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not familiar with Salesforce, but I know they have lots of different APIs. So you can certainly, you could do a whole bunch of different ways. You can have like subscriptions inside your application that whenever different data changes, that it triggers something else to happen. So like, let's say if on the client side, you can use an AppSync subscription that anytime you enter some data in, it triggers a call to a Lambda function that updates Salesforce. So that would be like one way on the client side. You can also, inside your DynamoDB tables or your Lambda functions, you can have, there's like an event bridge that you can have. So when certain events happen, that it triggers a Lambda functions to do something. So inside your Lambda functions, so let me see if I got well, I'll show you a Lambda function in a second after this gets pushed up. But you can have triggers that trigger when DynamoDB changes. So anytime an item is inserted into your DynamoDB database, it triggers a Lambda function, which calls a Salesforce API that updates Salesforce. So there's a lot of different ways you can definitely update Salesforce back and forth from like an Amplify app. So you might have to write, so if you're using Amplify itself, you might have to write some custom logic outside of Amplify to do that in the AWS console, or you might have to break out and go into the CDK. Like, I haven't done that specifically, but you certainly could. Yep. All right. Yeah, there's a whole way. If Amplify is too constraining, if you look at the Amplify docs, you can do custom CDK. So you can do this Amplify add custom, and then you can add in AWS CDK. And so you can create additional resources outside that Amplify doesn't offer, like let's say an event bridge or something like that. And then you can code it all in here. You can even access like existing resources, and then you can push it up. It is a little limited. I've seen a couple of GitHub issues with this approach where there's certain things that you can't do. I think with like, there's certain things with like Lambda functions that you can't do, I believe, but it's pretty flexible, and they're adding more features to make, to use this wherever you want. Or you can use CloudFormation too if you're familiar with that, and that's just a way to create infrastructure as code. Okay, so my Linktree post confirmation is being pushed. Still. So yeah, so if I did this right, hopefully I'll create a new user and it will automatically create something in my table here. So let me delete this user. And then we can also run a data store query and make sure that only that user can grab that information. So you can click here. I'll just delete this one item. That's something I just did for a test earlier. I can even, so now this user here, I don't really need this user. Let me refresh it. Yeah, so delete it's true on it. I'm just going to delete it directly in Dynamo. Obviously, if this was production or something, I wouldn't do this, but this is just for playing around. And you can, in the CLI, you can create like a production account, a staging environment, and a whole bunch of different environments, and then you can change between them. That's typically like a lot of customers who's dealing with production data. Maybe I'll do a video on how to do that in the future. All right, so it looks like it pushed up. I don't have any, still giving me this message about the owner. Maybe I'll fix that. Okay, so moment of truth. This probably won't work, but well, let's see what happens. Okay, so am I running? Invalid string. Let me refresh this. Okay. Sign out. Okay, I'm going to create a new account. So right now, if we look here, we have no users. Nothing's in here. So I'm going to create a new account. I'm just going to use our old email address. Test 1, 2, 3. My super secret password. Create account. Okay, so I'm going to look in my other email for my verification code. I'm going to put it in here. Confirm. Okay, I'm logged in. So now I'm coming back over here to Studio. And I'm just going to kind of click back. So there's the user. I just created test 1, 2, 3. Click here. Oh, did not create no user to display. So it did not work. Let's take a look here. Okay, so it didn't create my user, which is a problem. So I wonder if the post confirmation Lambda trigger, where it failed. So if I come back to this Linktree, I could probably pull up what happened. So I have API, authentication, and I think there's a link to the Lambda it created. I just need to find it. Post here, post up sign up trigger. Yeah, post sign up trigger. Yeah, here's the post confirmation trigger. So here it is. And then what I can do is I can look in CloudWatch to see where it broke. And also I can test it manually. Probably best bet I probably should have tested it before pushing it up, but since this is a live stream and I'm playing around with it, this is easier to do this way. So if I come here, I think the code, runtime, layers, monitor, CloudWatch, view CloudWatch logs. So yeah, so now I'm just going to see if I can figure out what's happening. Okay, so there's one thing in here. Okay, so oh, missing required table name. I forgot to add that in. So this is good. This is not good, but at least I know what I did wrong. So it's coming to this code here, and it's looking at this user table. I never added this user table in. So let's do that. So I'm going back to here, and so I should be able to add in environmental variables. So I can configuration, environmental variables, edit. I'm gonna add a new one called user table. Now the user table name, I think I have to grab that directly out of AppSync. So I think this is the table name. Here's items. Here, I think this is the name of the table right here. So I'm going to copy this, go into AppSync here. Now in Amplify, there is a way to add environmental variables, but I don't think without having to do this to the console. Yeah, function environmental variables. Okay, so you can do amplify update function, environmental variable configuration, add new environmental variable. Let's see if we can do it that way. Maybe instead of having to do it through here, I don't know, let's try it. So I'm going to amplify update function. Will that work? Okay, that's it. I'm going to environmental variable configuration. It's going to be called, what do we call it? User table. User table. Enter the variable. Here it is. I'm done. Do you want to edit the local function now? No. Okay, I'm going to see if this works. This should be quick to push, I think. Yeah, I'm going to push it. And I'm going to see if that updates and adds that environmental variable. So this is another thing. You can find most things you can do in Amplify, but sometimes you have to break out of it to find out if it works. I mean, obviously, I could have just done this in 2 seconds, just doing it right now, but I want to see if this will indeed update the function with the environmental variable. Yeah, so this is always super duper handy whenever you're trying to troubleshoot things, is look at the CloudWatch logs. They're like gold for you to see like what's happening. And if you find out that it's not, if you go through this and you get errors, look in the logs first. And sometimes even with the logs, you can't figure it out. There's another thing you can do, which I should have, which maybe you can do in a different video, but you can do amplify mocks. So this Lambda function, I could do this advanced workflow where I can add an API, I can mock it. I think you can mock functions too. The environment variables listed below, function mock environmental variables, mocking Lambda triggers on the model type. Like there's a whole bunch of things you can do which make this much easier. It's especially with AppSync. You can do a whole bunch of mocking and test it out first. Okay, so it's pushing the whole Linktree post confirmation again. Has anybody in the chat like used Lambdas? Curious to see if anybody has. Let me know. So the other way I was thinking about doing this, instead of adding the user directly to the DynamoDB database, is there is a whole AppSync AWS SDK. Someone was mentioning that earlier in the stream. Like there's a whole, so there's a bunch of JavaScript libraries for AWS services. The AWS SDK is like is pretty much the server side JavaScript library that you want to use. They also have it for Python, C#, .NET, and a bunch of others. But this library itself is perfect when you're using it in Lambdas, using it in Node. You would use this. Now, Amplify is a front end library. So Amplify, the Amplify JavaScript library, the Amplify UI components library, those are really meant for the front end. So some people get those confused and they try to use AWS SDK on the front end, or they use Amplify on the back end, and usually that's not the way to do it. The only exception is if you're using server-side rendering with like Next or Nuxt, then in that case, you can use Amplify on the server side, and that works great. And that's where you can like get that request object, and then you can use it on server side that I was showing earlier in the stream. So, but this AWS SDK client AppSync, it doesn't look too bad to do. And one thing I would have to do is if I was going to do it on you obviously couldn't use data store in the back end, but you could use AppSync. I could generate all the APIs, all the schemas and mutations for my GraphQL AppSync, and then I can pull those in and use it inside with this client. So this is definitely a way, but I'm thinking like just for simplicity's sake, it's easier just to go directly into the DynamoDB database and insert it in, at least hopefully. Okay, so it did it. Now if I come back to, I got too much crap open now. Too much stuff. Okay. If I come back here and I refresh this, let's see if it added it in there. User environmental variables. All right, so there it is. So it's added in there. So now let's create another login and see if this works. So I'm gonna sign out. Don't worry about the console. I'm just consoling a bunch of random stuff. Oh, let me always refresh it. Make sure everything's really working here. Okay. I see Storm, but I don't test 5. Oh, let's create an account. Test 5. Hope everybody knows the little plus trick to like create extra emails. Show. Okay. Confirm. All right. So it says we signed in again. Let's take a look at, let's refresh this. Well, let's go user management. I have my new test 5 content. Oh, still does not see a user here. So now we can go back to here. Yeah, so did not create the right one. That's link URLs though. Let's go back to the log group. Huh, okay. So now we're getting some more. Here's the post confirmation Lambda staging. Here's 2 of them. So let's look here. Start. Okay, so it failed somewhere. Oh, access denied exception. User is not authorized to perform DynamoDB put item on resource, blah, 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 because no identity-based policy allows DynamoDB put item action. So this says that I may have messed up that custom resource policy. So they're saying this DynamoDB put item. So DynamoDB put item on resource ARN AWS AppSync. Oh, so this is DynamoDB. This one says AppSync. US East 1 table name. Okay. So what I think here is I think I had the wrong ARN. Maybe I pulled it from the wrong place. So let's try. I'm going to try this one more time. If it doesn't work, I'll put star in. So I'm going to see here. DynamoDB US East 1 for this table. And staging. Okay. Okay. So it might require multiple resources. I haven't just looked into it. So I'm going to push this with this resource in here. And now I'm going to, it says this update here. So good. So I'm going to push it again. So I'm getting closer, I think. The other way to do this is you can set the IAM privileges directly inside the IAM console, which is a little bit easier because it gives you options to like choose it. But I thought in the spirit of using only Amplify, I would just use it inside here. But this should fix that denied exception on the put item once it pushes. All right. I saw a little, can you guys see the stream? I thought for a second it went out. So what else do we want to do? So the idea is after the user signs in, it creates the Linktree, and then inside the index TSX file, while that's doing stuff, we'll need to do a query to look at the data store items. And I think I probably need to do a pull, because I bet you we don't have everything we need here. So this models folder has the models in them. If I look inside models and look inside index.ts, yeah, I don't have that user, so I'm gonna have to pull that in so I don't have to generate that model myself. Okay, cool. Piero, thank you for doing that. Every now and then, Studio in YouTube says that I am not there. There's something wrong with it. Like it says like bad connection. I'm always like, what is happening? So I kind of don't want to do two things at once, but the way data store works is that I can do data store queries, and data store is like an offline solution to query data in my AppSync backend. And the way you do the queries is you pass in this Linktree, which is a model. And so I should have one called like user once I do an Amplify pull. And then I can look to see if I can just grab the information out of it. So like this one, this goes through query, it queries database.query for Linktree, and it looks for the username. So only the username for this user will display. So if it works correctly, I should only see one for the one I just created, if this works correctly. And then this thing, yeah, this thing is the same thing. I'm just grabbing the username and then showing only with that username. What's up, bud? I am not building $1 billion data for dApp. I'm doing old school Linktree $1 billion app, which is sort of a joke, but so I'm trying to add Linktree with AI using Amplify. That is my goal. And then the whole stack is everything on AWS that I can, using Next.js. And that's about it. Yeah, definitely. Trying to make that money. All right. Okay, so I pushed it up. One thing I want to try, I need to do an Amplify pull. So like pulling any changes, it hopefully adds that model that I'm missing for the user model that I just created. Is it okay not to memoing the Linktree? What do you mean? Like memoize it? Yeah, I could probably put it in the use effect, but I was just kind of testing it out really quickly. Probably should just do it like this. This is probably, and it'll be just in the use effect. And it should only run once, so I'll probably just make it run once. And then yeah, let's just do this for now. Yeah, if I was updating the user, I would put in there. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so you're right. So it should, depending on what I'm doing this use effect, I would make sure it's memoized. Yep. Let's see here. Okay. Everything's synced. Let me see real quickly if I go into the model. Yeah, if anybody sees a mistake or error or bug, yeah, feel free to shout me out. Call me out on it. All right. Index.js. Okay, cool. Now I have user, so I can use that later to grab the user data. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to try this a third time. Third time's the charm, maybe. So let's create a new one. And if this doesn't work, I will try the resource. Let's do test 6. I love my clicky keyboard. Putting the verification. Okay. Confirm. Okay, I'm logged in. Go back to Linktree. User management. Test 6. Okay, content. Oh, still nothing to display. So now we can go back to my cloud console. Okay, here's the third one. 104. Actually, it doesn't say it didn't. It doesn't say it failed. Let's see here. Maybe it did. Explore table. But there's nothing in the, oh, there it is. It did create it. Okay, it did work. So here's the user trial. So this username right here is the same as these here. It just wasn't showing up in my Linktree. Let me refresh this. Sometimes you have to refresh this content manager. Let's see here. So nothing is showing up in the user here, but it is displaying in the, apparently it is in here though. So it definitely did update inside here. Let's see what it shows in the Linktree. So if we refresh this in the data store, so it doesn't show there's anything there. If we go back to the index.tsx file, let's see here. What is the username? Console log username, user.username. So my use effect should run twice. Okay, so FD, so this one, if I come back to items in my table here, let's close that one, cancel here. Okay, so this is matching. So it's definitely this ID here and this owner is matching because that's this. Yeah, that's exactly the same. So it's definitely adding it to the user database, but there, for some reason, it's not showing up correctly in data store in the console. So I think there's probably something wrong with the way I inserted it in there that's causing it not to show up. Yeah, but yeah, definitely been doing these once a week. So if you guys are interested in this type of content, then yeah, check me out. You can sign up for my email list in the link in the description, and I'll let you know next time I go live. Okay, there it goes. That was weird. Maybe it's because I had reset. Okay, cool. So it's in here. So I have the trial. Everything looks okay. I come back to Linktree. Let's refresh this. Oops, refresh it. Maybe because I have so many tabs open or something, I didn't have it. It's still not finding it when I do a data store find query. Oh, that's Linktree. This should be, I know why. So instead of doing Linktree, we'll do user. Import from users. And c.username. Let's see if this works. Hey, look at that. Model. Cool. So here's the console. Here's model, trial. Awesome. So it's working. Woohoo, we did it. So now we have this post confirmation trigger. And now what I can do is I can be like, since I have this username, and I can search, I can do this query for the username, and then I can pull back to see if it's trial or not by like links dot. So this is like a map. So, and I can do status. So I can use this inside my app to check to see if the user is on a trial and show different things. So just real quickly, I guess I can do a status set status equals use state, and I'll just put it to let's see here, import from React. I guess the use state we can set it to I don't know, we can set it to empty string for now. And then inside the use effect, we could do set status Linktree 0.status, and then set status. Let's see here. It doesn't like that. Let's see here if I can do set status. Assignment of string null undefined is not assignable to, oh, because this is, it could be undefined or null if this status doesn't exist. Wonder, yeah, that is true. I wonder if we can kind of just tell it that it's always there. It's not assignable, or we can do, let's see here. Status not a string apparently. Oh my bad, you're right. Maybe access allow. Yeah, we got that working. So yeah, so now this linktree.status could be undefined. So I wonder what we could do here. So we could do status equals linktree 0.status. So we know status in that case can be string, null, or undefined. So I wonder if, could you do something like, if this is status, just put it blank. And then now status is always status declared. So now it's always a string. So let's do status like this, and then it would save. Generic use state. Like I could set up, yeah, generic for it and say it could be string or undefined or null or something like that. And then I could do something like this. I don't know, there's probably a bunch of different ways. And then React hook is either missing dependency user.username. So now it's thinking that maybe I would need a dependency here. Let's just close this off. Like user.username on it. Use state tree null or defined. Yep, you're right. Piero. Is it double brackets? It's single. Yeah, because this is type. And then down here we could do something like status equals trial, and then you can put in user is on trial, please contact. Otherwise we can do null. So users on trial, cool. So it says that correctly here. Yeah, and then I could do it from there and do some stuff with that. All right, well, I think that's, wow, it's going on almost 2 hours. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do today. So next time we will see if we can get the links to be saved. Since it's a relationship, we'll have to do a little bit of changing around. But we'll need to make sure that when you save a link tree, that the link tree is saved correctly for this user. And then also we'll have to add, every time you add a link URL, it'll add it for this user. So because the relationship is a one-to-many, or has many. One link URL has many one link tree has many link URLs. So yeah, we'll continue on. Cheers, everybody. Hey, Sean, you just missed it. I am doing a link tree with AI app Just kind of having some fun with it. But yeah, check back. I'll leave this stream up, I think. And thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on.